Welcome back, everybody, to Lighten Up with Bo. We're on chapter 6 of A Course in Miracles. How's your week? Are you peaceful? Are you feeling calm? Are you irritated? Are you frustrated? It's holiday season. Who knows? It's all messy. But if it's your first time to my live, maybe you've made it here to this live talk and you don't know what's going on with A Course in Miracles, and that's okay. Maybe go back and watch some of the first videos. But the Course in Miracles, which I have right here, you may not have this version. There's another version that has pearls running across it, which is my second favorite version. I mean, they're all good. You may have the Blue Foundations for Peace version. The text will read a little bit different, but that's okay. For the purpose of these videos, I think that you will find the information valuable. These videos do not take the place of you having your own experience and your own journey with A Course in Miracles, with the healing that I think is available for our minds. So have fun, but we're going to get right into chapter 6, which is a beautiful, beautiful, it may be one of my favorite chapters in the text portion. As you know, I'm also doing the lessons, I guess eventually at some point in the next year, all 365 daily lessons from the Course in Miracles, and my kind of breakdown of them will be available. But for now, I'm also doing the chapters because the information in the chapters really make the lessons more accessible, or the deeper meaning within the lessons more accessible. So we're getting into chapter 6 of A Course in Miracles, which is called The Lessons of Love. Yeah, at least in this version of A Course in Miracles, the title of the chapter is The Lessons of Love. And this whole chapter is really about how the mind learns love, unlearns fear, and how every single one of us is already teaching something all day long, whether we actually realize it or not. We're always teaching. It's kind of a surprisingly practical chapter in some ways, although again, most people find reading the Course in Miracles a lot, which is why I never recommend reading more than one subsection at a time. It can feel very big, but when you slow it all down, it's really about everyday moments, everyday reactions, everyday interpretations. So I'm going to walk you through each subsection kind of quickly. I've made a few notes because I find it helps me to distill my brain, to distill spirit in what I'm talking about. But I'm going to walk you through each subsection kind of briefly, so to speak, and then along the way, I'll pause and kind of go into some talking points that I think might be helpful for everyday life, to how it shows up in everyday life. And I'm going to decide by the time I'm done if I'm going to do a deep dive in one of the subsections where I actually read the whole subsection, or I may just end with these little breakdowns. Who knows? So again, my intention is that you have your own journey and let your heart and your soul speak to you by actually reading the Course in Miracles. Don't take the shortcuts of people's videos and social media reels. Have a full experience. Have your own journey. So the first section in chapter 6, which I love, is called The Message of the Crucifixion. Now, if you're anything like me, if you grew up in some form of religion based around Jesus, non-denominational Christianity, again, any religion really that relates to the story of Jesus, the man who awakened the Christ, which is what we all actually are. He was just the first and will not be the last. Everybody, he says, is equal, right? But there was a lot of misinterpretation with the event known as the crucifixion, or Jesus being put to death, right? So the first section really flips the whole meaning of the crucifixion. It says it basically says that the point wasn't for him to be punished for something he seemingly did wrong. It wasn't about sacrifice. It wasn't about suffering. That the real message was attack or punishment, or whatever word you want to give attack or punishment, has no effect on what's real at the absolute level. That you can't be harmed and you can't lose what God created you as. There's a line in the first section that says, I believe it's in the first section, that anger always involves projection of separation. which basically means if I'm angry, if I'm upset, It's because I believe someone took something from me. I believe that I've been wronged. And the Course in Miracles uses the word attack because whether it's condemnation, blaming, condemning, judging, this is a attack, whether it's physical or a thought of someone. As the Course in Miracles says, all thoughts create on some level. So even when we think judgmental, blaming, condemning thoughts, at a absolute level of mind, this is an attack. So to kind of go into this a little bit more, we can really only get angry when we believe someone has caused us harm. Now, that doesn't mean that right in the moment when we get angry, we can actually recall having a thought where we go, oh my God, they just totally harmed me. But when we actually go into some version of irritation or frustration, i.e. anger, that it is basically saying that with that reaction, there must be a belief, even if it's at an unconscious level, that someone or something has caused us harm. But the Course says the harm that we think they caused is never actually the cause. It's really the belief in separation that hurts us, not the situation. And that belief in separation is basically at the subconscious level. Nobody walks around, well, mostly I don't think, going, I'm separate. Oh my God, I'm separate. I'm totally separate. It's like this deep embedded idea that we are separate from. And that is what's really the harm. So like a real life example, someone criticizes you or me. I can just say someone criticized me, and sometimes there can be this instinct that comes up that says, oh my God, they just hurt me. And the Course is basically saying, but look again. What if nothing actually real was really touched? And that instantly can really soften the whole thing. What if there was no real hurt? Which also basically asks us to pause, to learn to pause before we react. So back to the first section. In the first section also, this part, it also says that we've reacted for years as if we're being crucified. Meaning, we act as though, a lot of us, at least in my own life, we act as though we're constantly under some form of attack, some judgment, some criticism, some blame, when the truth is we're not. And Jesus's whole point in this section was to demonstrate that you cannot be at the absolute level truly harmed, because what God creates cannot be threatened, period. So when we stop seeing ourselves as someone who can be attacked, the whole world softens. When we stop seeing ourselves as someone, an identity that can even be attacked, everything starts to soften. Defensiveness goes down. Right? I just flipped to lesson 153 in A Course in Miracles, which will be way later, but it's in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Defenselessness. When we know who we are, when we know the truth, there is no idea that exists that we could ever or have ever been attacked. Because what is forever, what is eternal, what God creates is forever. So love becomes easier. And this isn't about denying your feelings. It's about noticing that the feeling came from a belief, not a fact. And I think that's really powerful. So ultimately what we're getting at is, at the deepest sense, that demonstration of the crucifixion was meant to teach that harm is impossible to a mind that has awakened to what it truly is. And then next section, section 2, which was called projection and separation. And so we're going to move a little bit more into projection. And this section explains that the projection is the engine of separation. It's what drives separation. Anything we're afraid to face in ourselves, we will see out there. And then once we project it outward, out there, we reject what we projected and feel even more separate. So it's basically like the ego's subtle way of like, oh, good, it's out there now. And that means it's no longer in me. And as a matter of fact, I'm also going to reject all that negative stuff that I didn't want to look at within me. So now I'm separate from it totally. It's no longer mine to deal with. And so there's this idea you cannot actually love what you do not appreciate. I think it says that in section 2. And whenever you are afraid of what you are, you reject it. So projection is really always first about self-rejection. So let me say that again. Projection is always first about self-rejection. So if I judge you, blame you, make you wrong in my mind, I'm attacking something in myself first, right? Because where is that judgment going on? In my mind. And everything within me is a part of me, so I'm attacking something in myself first. And projection keeps the separation going, because basically it proves I'm different from you. So once I've projected it out there to you, I see it as something separate and different. So projection into the world is a mechanism that constantly proves I'm different from. So a way to simplify it is like projection is how we hide ourselves and then punish the world for it. That's a good way to say it. We basically hide from ourselves and then punish the world for it. Yeah. And so back to a little bit more about the section. This part also says in this section that anger is impossible without projection. And I find that interesting. You can't have one without the other. You can't have projection and anger. One has to be there for the other to exist. And the ego mind uses projection to justify attack. Look what's out there. See, the ego wants us to project it out there. So now we have more separation, and then I have something to go to battle with, right? And you could easily read into that much more. And if you believe, something else to kind of go into, if I believe at a conscious or much more for most people, unconscious level that I'm guilty, if I believe you're guilty, I'm actually believing that I am. Projection is more like the attempt to export guilt is another way to say it, and it never really works. So projection is just the way that we basically constantly project outside of our minds into the world all the things we don't want to look at. The rage, the hatred, the sadness, the hurt, the division, which is why we constantly see that outside of us. But first it existed within us. And it's the way the ego keeps us from looking inward at the beliefs we have about our own unworthiness, our own anger, our own division within ourself, our own self-hatred within ourself. So section 3 is another section that I like. It's called Everything Meets in God. Everything meets in God. This section is basically the stitching together, kind of stitching together all of this a little bit. It basically says that all truth, all creation, and all minds meet in God. That there is no real division at the absolute level. So this section is a little bit quieter. It's a little bit more spacious. It's starting to soften the first couple sections. It's the reminder that the separation never actually happened. That separation is an illusion. And I don't think I really have much more to say about this section. This section, I think you'll enjoy it, but it's really the reminder that the separation never occurred. Everything meets in God. But what I will get a little bit more excited about is the next section, which is section 4, titled Teach Only Love. And this is a huge, major theme throughout A Course in Miracles. Teach only love, for that is what you are. It's not what you look for. It's not what you go out to find. It is what you literally are. The Course in Miracles says that everyone is always teaching all day long. All day long, Your being is ministering in the world, even when you're not speaking to people, with your thoughts, with your ideas, because thoughts and ideas create. All day long, we're teaching, not verbally, but through our presence, through our energy, through our interpretation, through our behavior. And since you cannot not teach, the only right-minded thing to do is teach love. The only sane thing to do is teach love. So if I walk into a room like really defensive, if I walk into a room and I'm already on guard, I'm defensive, I'm in a defensive state, then I'm teaching fear. If I walk into a room light, peaceful, happy, open, curious, I'm teaching safety. So as you probably recall, people learn from whatever state you show up in. And teaching love isn't about being perfect at the human level. It's just basically making a choice to not reinforce the ego's story in our mind that's always trying to walk in the room in fear and defensiveness. So even if we can start to notice that, we can step aside and then say, I want to choose to teach love in this moment that I walk into. So we just stop reinforcing fear by pausing, getting quiet, and learning to send love in. Patient, kind, open. Next section, section 5, the answer to all questions. Yahtzee, isn't that what I was looking for? I need the answer to all questions. Woo! This section is really simple and really beautiful. It basically says there's only one real question and there's only one real answer. And I've heard this a lot throughout the years in A Course in Miracles. But some people think that the question is different, when in reality, there's only one, and there's only one true answer. Every problem that we perceive is a misperception rooted in some fear. And the Holy Spirit has one response: bring it back to truth. The ego will multiply questions 1,000 times. It'll just multiply it, compound it. The Holy Spirit in our mind simplifies them. So what that means is, if the answer is always love, then the only question becomes, where did I forget who I am right now? Because if what I am is love, going from the earlier section, teach only love because that is what you are. That is why the only question becomes, where did I forget who I am right now? And so this basically helps people stop trying to solve 1,000 different things and come back to one thing, which is, right, teach only love because that is what I am. And it's really easy to get, it's so easy to get lost in like what teaching love looks like. But again, as we read in the earlier section, it's more about being. I am love. I teach that because it's what I am. And that's the only real answer in any situation. Teach only this. Section 6 is really beautiful. The subsection in chapter 6, subsection 6, the title is The Call to Awake. And this section for me is, there's a real tenderness. There's a little emotionality to it. It's basically the idea that God is calling to us all the time. That God is calling to us every second, in every moment, not to be improved, not to get better, but to be remembered. It talks, somewhere in this section, it talks about how deeply we've been sleeping, not like we sleep at night, but like a soul sleeping, and how gently the awakening happens. And the awakening isn't dramatic. I think some people, including me for a long time, was expecting like a white light, boom experience, that awakening, enlightenment, arising is going to be this very dramatic experience. I think it's also interesting, side note, that so many spiritual seekers, including myself, seem to go look for what could be like dramatic spiritual experiences. I think ayahuasca, which is helpful to a lot of people, could be considered like, whoa, it's very dramatic and vomiting and these intense experiences. So what I'm reminded is that awakening isn't through some dramatic experience. It's just a soft shift in perception. It's the moment that one might realize, oh, wait, I'm not alone. Or I don't actually have to be scared right now. In a moment where you might normally be in fear, and presence comes over you, and you have this idea or this awareness of, I actually don't have to be afraid right now. See, what that means is the ego mind will convince us that certain situations and experiences that are certainly coming, that they absolutely warrant being afraid, that we should be afraid. But what about in a moment where you would normally find yourself terrified? Maybe for somebody, it's just sitting behind the wheel of a car. Maybe it's standing on a high hilltop where you're high up because you have always had this idea of, when I'm high up, I feel fear. But maybe as we learn to soften and remember who we are and remember who walks with us, what walks with us, that thought comes in, I don't have to be afraid right now. And that's the call to awake. The call to awaken to the truth of what we are, that we share the Christ identity with our brother, that we share our Christ identity with our sister, that we share our Christ identity with all. And it's constant. It's very calm and it's very available at all times. And it usually happens when I take one long, deep breath in any moment and I ask that question, who's teaching right now? So, anyways, I find that beautiful. Look, next section, some people would say they might think is the most profound of this chapter because it's the longest section and it has like a part A, a part B, and a part C. So the title of section 7 is The Lessons of the Holy Spirit. What a beautiful title, The Lessons of Spirit. If you were here in my last week reading, if you listened to chapter 5 breakdown, it asks, what is the Holy Spirit? And as a reminder, the Holy Spirit is that part of our conscious mind that is never disconnected from perfect love and perfect peace. It doesn't live in past, it doesn't live in future. It's that available wisdom within that is beyond most of our intellectual mind's understanding, but it is always available with perfect love and presence in every moment. It doesn't plan for the future or feel there's something in the past. It's just the constant loving communication connection with the truth of what we are that has never been forgotten. And so lesson A in the Lessons of the Holy Spirit, which is profound, is to have, give all to all. To have, give all to all. And this basically overturns the lack, scarcity, the idea of scarcity, the idea of lack at its very root. It says the only way to truly have something is to give it, because giving is how we realize what we are. So you can never really lose by giving love. I think many people would agree with this. You can't lose by giving love. The only way we lose is by withholding it, because withholding teaches lack. Remember what we talked about earlier? If we walk into a room closed, scared, shut down, we're teaching fear. So when we withhold love, withholding teaches lack. It sends the certainty of the lack vehicle out into the world, but teaching, but when we are in a giving moment, this teaches abundance, right? If I'm giving, it teaches abundance and prosperity. So back to lesson A, to have, give all to all. Part B in this section is to have peace, teach peace. I think now you understand, but again, I want you to read these sections for yourself. If it's to have, give all to all, this one is to have peace, teach peace. And this one is basically about consistency of mind. Pretty simple. If you want peace, we have to offer it. If we teach conflict, then we feel conflicted. If we teach peace, then we feel peaceful. And again, it's not necessarily about words, remember. Teaching is a state of being, how we show up. So if I show up calm, not faking it, but I've chosen to let that peace be anchored in me. I do my lessons, I meditate, I get quiet, I walk in nature, I do things that root my beingness in me. And then I say, Spirit, let your peace, let our peace walk in before me. And by choosing to teach peace, I feel peaceful. And so it's really pretty practical. If someone or you are really stressed, right? But if someone is, a family member, a friend, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's a romantic partner. If they're stressed and then you match their stress, you're teaching conflict. But if you ground yourself first, you're teaching peace, right? So many people, there's a section in A Course in Miracles called True Empathy. It's such a powerful, I can't wait. I don't want to get to it because it'll come later in another chapter. So more will always be revealed, but if we ground ourselves first before joining into their stress, we're not joining in the conflict and teaching more conflict. If we ground ourselves in peace, then we're teaching peace. And this is why, you probably know I've been sober a long time. This is why emotional sobriety matters. It's one thing to stop drinking and doing drugs and doing the form of things, the behavior of things. It's another thing to be emotionally balanced within. True sobriety, emotional sobriety. Section C is be vigilant only for God. And for some people that have trouble with the word God, not saying that you do, I like to use the word life, love. Use whatever word resonates in your soul. I can promise you that God does not care what word you use. It's what's at the core. Be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. And the key word there is only. This sounds really intense, but I promise you it's not. It just means that watch the thoughts that we agree with. Watch the thoughts that we agree with. Be honest about what you let into your mind, into your thoughts. Don't just casually accept fear and pain and anger and lack and scarcity. Don't just casually accept them. It's really, this section is kind of starting to get in, tiptoe into kind of good mental hygiene, like brushing our teeth, which, well, I guess I like brushing my teeth, but like brushing our teeth. But it's for our perception. So whether that's meditation, breath work, walking in nature, but whatever helps build that mental hygiene of like, what am I letting myself believe right now? So what you might be noticing is a lot of times just getting more conscious is starting to ask, kind of having a list of questions that you can remember to ask yourself in the moments of seeming fear or the opposite of love, which is what you are. So getting good about being vigilant for only love, for only God, for only life, is starting to ask questions like, what am I letting myself believe right now? See, I love that question because it has me stay accountable to what am I letting myself believe? A lot of times we think beliefs were just pushed upon us and that those are factual beliefs. But the beliefs I have are a choice, and that's vigilance. To start to ask questions. What am I letting myself believe right now? So if God is love and we are love and all is only love, then being vigilant only for God and its kingdom is being vigilant only for love. It's going back to teaching only love. And in the beginning, it's just inviting, who am I deciding I am? When did I stop forgetting what I am? What am I letting myself believe about myself or the world right now? What would love teach? And that's vigilance. The last subsection in chapter 6 is pretty easy. It's called the last step. When I say easy, I think some of the other subsections are a little heavier. But this is the closing section in chapter 6 in A Course in Miracles. And it says that God takes the final step itself, meaning the final step home. Many people have heard the word heaven and they think about it as a physical place. The Course in Miracles, quite literally, Jesus reminds us in A Course in Miracles that heaven isn't a place, but it is a state, our true state, a state of oneness with all life. It's a restoration to the oneness we share. It is a state of being. So we don't climb to heaven. We just clear the blocks of misbeliefs, the blocks of misperception. And God, limitless life, bridges the final seeming gap of separation that we thought we were in. It's a gentle ending. It's basically saying, you don't have to do the heavy lifting, but we do, and it says this in many sections, we do just have to be willing. We don't have to do anything hard. We just have to be willing. So, I just want to encourage everyone that with this chapter, this path that we're just barely going through in A Course in Miracles, this path of awakening, it doesn't matter even if you're into A Course in Miracles, but the path of freedom, the path of awakening, the path of salvation, this is not about pushing or accomplishment or achievement. It's about relaxing our mind, not the brain, the mind, the soul, just enough that truth can really reach us, just for it to really soak in. So I think that I'm going to let that be, well, gosh, let's see where I'm doing on time, shall we? Let's just see. Let's just look. Uh-oh, there's the shaking screen. How we doing? Yeah, I think, that's a good amount of time. I appreciate you listening. Some sections, some chapters, as I've said, I might decide to take a section and break it down line by line. But I think you guys get the gist with this chapter. The lessons of love. Teach only love, for that is what you are. Teach only love, for that is what you are. Before you go into any situation, remember to invite love to do the teaching. Patience, kindness, inclusivity, openness, curiosity, and make that choice. You will experience the effects of what you decide to teach. And remember also from section 1, I'm just going to say it one more time, as our brother so beautifully demonstrated, the crucifixion was meant to teach that life is eternal. And it cannot be harmed, and it cannot be assailed. But that experience starts with our choosing what we are, choosing what we want to teach. And more I come to find that my peace of mind, my physicality, my being, my life, the more I choose to be an equal with my brothers and sisters, a Christ, whatever you want to call it, a Buddha, an awakened one being, when I choose to anchor my mind in that, I am free, I am unharmed, I am unassailed by anyone and anything around me, because I no longer look out into the world to tell me what's going on. I've made the choice to join my mind with the one mind, with spirits, and so it is. So I hope you enjoyed the breakdown of chapter 6. I'll be doing more lessons in the coming days. So please feel free to leave comments if you have any thoughts about what was shared. If you have any questions, maybe there's like a little video you want me to do. Like, can you just do a video on this? I'd be happy to. But for now, I'm trying to just make it light. Lighten Up with Bo is about all of this information is to help us live in this dream called the human experience in a much lighter way. to feel more at joy, more at peace, more at ease with the world around us. Because our being is love. And if I don't feel in love, in joy, in peace with all life, then I must, in that moment, ask, when did I step out of the identity of what I am? So anyways, have a beautiful day. Stay peaceful, stay light, lighten up, go out and climb a tree, go swing on a swing set. You can go to Lighten Up with Bo if you want to see, you can go to the Lighten Up Movement website if you want to take a fun quiz that I made to tell you the ego costume you might be getting stuck in. If you want to play some pickleball with me, I do live talks on Insight Timer, but otherwise I'll keep releasing videos here, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.